Good evening. Welcome to the October 18th, 2023 meeting of the Niskayuna Zoning Board of Appeals. We have a few housekeeping matters before we call the matters that are on this evening. Ms. Shiketti, will you go ahead and call the roll, please?
Here. Mr. Dolman, Ms. Pacheco? Here. Mr. Stein?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Here.
Chairperson Hoke?
Here. The first matter on the agenda is the minutes from the September 20th, 2023 meeting. Is there any discussion on those minutes?
Yes, I have a question, Chairperson Hoke. On line 124, there is a word denial, and I just want to make sure I understand it properly. I don't know if it should be written as an appeal, the way that it's worded in there.
Oops.
Yes.
The denial is to maintain a garage which would be located in the front yard after the proposed lot line adjustment with 1900 Union Street. So I can tell you our office uses denial and appeal interchangeably because the building inspector actually issues a denial letter and then the person is allowed to appeal. So there are denials to maintain a garage. I mean, a denial does exist in our department.
Okay,
Do you have an opinion on that, Elena?
okay, thank you for the clarification.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
You're satisfied?
Yes.
Is there any other discussion? Okay. Having heard none, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes from September 20th?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Green. A motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Shiketti, will you call the roll?
Mr. Lateif?
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes,
Mr. Stein?
Abstain.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes. The minutes from September 20th, 2023 have been approved by a vote of 6-0,
No,
5-0, 5-0.
5-0, 1 abstain.
Mr. Shiketti, will you go ahead and call the first matter on the agenda for this evening?
The appeal by Travis Mears for a variance from section 220-25B1A of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskayuna as it applies to the property at 2824 Troy Schenectady Road, Niskayuna, New York, located in the R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning District, to maintain a 6-foot fence which exceeds the height limit allowed in the front and side yards. Fence section 220-25B1A permits the maximum height for fences located in the front and side yards to be 4 feet. As constructed, a 6-foot high fence is located in the front yard and side yards. Therefore, a 2-foot fence height variance is required. 8 notices were mailed out, 0 responses.
Thank you, sir. Can you state your name and address for the record,
My name
please?
is Travis Mears, 2824 Troy Schenectady Road.
If I may, I'm sorry, sir, in our point of order. My head count suggests to me that you may wish to
Yeah, we're
advise applicants.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Green.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Mears, what Mr. Green is alluding to is the fact that we are a 7-member board. This evening, you'll see that one chair is
Yes,
empty, which makes us a 6-member board this evening. For your variance to be approved, you will need 4 affirmative votes, even though there's only 6 of us here this evening. At the outset, before you start proceeding, you have an option, which is to push this matter off until the next meeting to allow a full board to consider your application. So you have the benefit of having 7 members. You still would need the 4 votes. It wouldn't cost you anything to do that. Or you can opt to proceed this evening.
And if there's only 7 next time, I think I'm fine.
Okay, it's
Okay,
your
we're fine,
decision.
right?
It's your choice.
Yes, I think we're fine. I did have one question though. He said 0 responses and I wasn't sure what that meant
Well,
because
What it meant was the notice that had been provided to your neighbors and people within a proximity to your
Oh,
home.
okay. I thought
Nobody
it was
has
for me. Okay, I
responded either
understand
for
now.
or against the
All right, I
application.
understand now. Sorry. sir.
Okay,
Thank
so I'm not sure if we got your address on the record,
you.
but
2824 Troy Schenectady Road. I am in apartment 2. My father is in 1L and my mother is in 1R.
okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your application and what steps, if any, you've taken to mitigate the need for a variance?
Yes, sir. So it originally started, I have a daughter, she's young, and my folks watch her during the day. My father and mother are both in their 70s, and we're on a little bit of a hill going up, so it's very easy for the balls and the kid to run down into the road. So I was originally going to put a fence up there, and a 4-foot fence. We have a 39-inch railing that she constantly climbs all the time. I have video footage of it. I mean, she climbs right to the top of it very quick. So 4 foot for her coming off of a hill is just not far. And there's no way for my father or my mother to simply get her beforehand. Now, I knew there was some rules regarding the front yard of the fence, but I didn't know those same rules applied to the side yard, like fencing off the side yard. So I'm coming off of the house with it. And so that's where I had the problem with, I have to come and ask for a 6-foot variance. for it.
Let me just stop you there.
Sure.
The fence is currently installed, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's a 6-foot fence, and you have either
I think I have
you.
some drawings and stuff I sent.
What was attached to the application, I don't know if you attached it or Ms. Robertson put it with the application, but a copy of the aerial view of the property. I don't know if you can bring that
Yes,
up.
I'm familiar with the property, so I don't need to see it.
Well, I'm just, for the benefit of everybody that's
Sure.
on the board, sometimes it's, at
Sure.
least for me, it's good to be able to visualize it.
I don't have that, and I'm not sure when I dealt with her. I dealt with Mr. Canizzo, I believe, a couple of times, the inspector.
Well, you're obviously familiar with your property.
Yes,
That,
yes.
that yellow line represents a portion of where the fence is installed, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, well, why, hold on. You're welcome to go over there, but if you could just grab the microphone so we can keep a
Oh,
record
sure,
of what you're
sorry.
saying.
So I also have a drawing that I sent in that might be easier to see. We have so we have a sidewalk here, which is about where I've lined, that comes up in front of the house. So here's the porch. There's some landscaping here and a sidewalk here. So I have the fence kind of lined up with the sidewalk. So it's about 10 feet in front of the house and about 40 feet from the sidewalk. So there is a large gap between the sidewalk. It's not right up against the sidewalk.
Well, can we just go to the aerial view again? Do you-
Certainly, yes,
Do
absolutely.
you agree or disagree with where that yellow line is?
It's pretty close on. What I'm not seeing is the porch and the sidewalk that come out here
Okay.
off of the driveway.
But
Now-
we could agree that that yellow line reflects.
It's
where-
pretty close to it, yes, sir.
Okay, and then the fence goes back, correct, along the,
So it goes from the front area of my house here,
yep,
some feet over here. Here's the gate for it, and then it goes over. This is a long ditch and bush line, and there are no neighbors in these next 2 plots on this side. So this goes almost up to the edge of the fence, the ditch there, and the ditch has the 6 or 8 feet of foliage, bamboo and other stuff. So it goes almost into the foliage.
okay, and then, so the fence does not run along your property boundary backwards, correct?
No. It's left to right, if you were, if
And
you look up from the
so
road.
it's just one line, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
and you indicate, you can go back to the,
Yes, sir.
I believe you indicated that before you put up the fence, you knew that there were rules associated
Yeah,
with
so I'm a
fence?
contractor and I've heard of stuff in the front yard. I did not know that those same rules like applied. I know, I'm not sure what the front yard rules are, but I know I've had customers that, oh, sorry, man, have had issues with the, front yard thing and stuff. So I did not think that, after talking to Mr. Canizzo, I realized that in Niskayuna, the front and side yard is interchangeable. That's just, it's always front and side yard, how they say it or whatever. So any rules that apply to the front yard would apply to the side yard here in Niskayuna, as it was explained to me. So that's why I'm here for the variance thing.
Okay, and how did it come about that you were speaking with Mr. Canizzo about
I
this?
believe either he drove by and saw it or a neighbor, I don't know how he became aware of the fence there, but he had left a note. I actually have it on my door and respond. I actually have it just
That's okay.
a building permit note thing or something like that from
Right.
the town. So I
And-
came right down, spoke to him and gave him that drawing and stuff. And then I came back in later on with the paperwork signed from everybody that needed to sign it.
And when was the fence installed?
I believe it was August, sometime in August.
Okay. And did you investigate any alternatives to putting up the 6-foot fence before
So
you installed it?
We were gonna do arborvitae's or something, which we still plan to do in front of the house, or in front of the fence there to kind of conceal it some. but they would just take too long to grow. And we figured that by the time anything grew up there, she would probably even be too old to maybe have to worry about the road. And we are right on Troy Schenectady Road. So any accident, if she's out on the road for a minute or something, they're just going so fast there.
Sure. And there was no fence there originally when you purchased
No,
the
sir.
property? And when did you purchase the property?
November 21.
2021?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My father moved in December, and my mother, daughter, and I in April the following year.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I got a couple of questions. I know you mentioned you do construction.
Yes, I have a small
So-
remodeling business.
So what would it take for you to, first of all, describe a little bit to me about the side of your property? Do you have any doors in there?
Okay, so
You could stay on the microphone, just,
you're asking about
On the
as
s- yeah.
we're looking at this now, the left side of the house, the
Yes.
house with the fence is on. There are no doors on the left side of the house. There's a living room that starts in the left side of the house where the porch would be. There's a small jut out there you can see in kind of the left. It almost looks like a cross. That is a bedroom, has a kind of a small dining room next to it. I'm
so,
sorry.
so you have no doors?
No, there's 2 doors in the back of the house, 2 doors in the front, and then
Okay.
additional second story
And
upstairs
how
door in the
far
back.
is it from the front of your house to the back of your house?
All right, so the front of the house, the back of the house is approximately 36 feet, and then it has an additional spot. You can see it coming off the left there on the back side, just under the 28 really. And that goes back an additional 18 to 20 feet or so.
18 to 20 feet?
Yes, and I believe the house is in 12-foot sections, so it's about 36 feet, 3 sections.
Okay, and it looks like to me, describe the back of your property. It looks like you have enough room in there to be able to have if you have the fence to the back of your house, looks like you have
There's
enough room.
it's all kind of grown in, as you can see from the area there. There's about 3 car parking spaces between the rear of the house and the barn there. And pretty much behind the barn is really overgrown. I mean, I've been clearing some of it, but it's quite grown in back there, and the bugs are just brutal. There's a ditch all the way around the house where you see the brush there. Let me think of foot wise. Behind the barn, perhaps 60 feet or so, there's a ditch and it loops around my house and then the bugs and stuff. I think that's why they have so much foliage growing around it, just to keep everything away. It
Okay,
is quite, I don't know if I have a picture of it, but I'm happy to show it. It's quite full. It's really grown in back there.
okay. And tell me about the green lines. That's your property line?
I believe so. I haven't measured it or had it
Okay, do
surveyed.
you have a fence in there?
I have no fence other than the one that we installed.
Okay.
There is no
And
fence.
tell me from the fence, how wide is your fence from to your property?
That's approximately 70 feet. The side of the side yard is approximately 70 feet. Now it narrows as it goes back to approximately where it's by the barn. It's maybe 50 feet or so because the waterway.
Okay. And how long is the fence that you have in place right now?
Well, that's about how long the fence is, and the yard goes back a little further. So it's almost the entire side yard. I left an area open where the foliage kind of grows up, where she can't just run through it. It's bushes and stuff.
Okay,
And I also wanted to make sure if there was animals or something, they could get through the fence. I think sometimes they run across the road there.
okay. Well, what kind of fence is it, PVC or?
No, it's wood. I was afraid to use the vinyl just because if it ever stays there for whatever reason, it's going to be rotted. That's really dangerous for the environment. I figured the wood would just rot and be normal.
All right. Mr. Holt, I'm going to turn it back to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Certainly, sir.
Sir, exactly how, do you know how many acres you have? Do you have an acre?
1.47 or 1.49.
1.49?
I think it's 1.47 actually, but I could be wrong. Yes.
So I know Mr. Latif was kind of getting at this. There's other areas on your property that your daughter could play that would not be close to the front fenced area,
I
correct?
have quite a distance between the sidewalk and the front fence. I mean, mine is much further back than other people on my street, even within a 2-block radius. I mean, even
I've looked at, you would agree your fence is very noticeable from Route 7, correct?
I would say from the left side, but not the right, because the right, this is all foliage on the right up to the fence. So if you're coming towards Troy on there, you don't even notice it at all because it's grass all the way up to trees, all the way up to this ditch part there by the road. So coming down on the right, you don't see it at all. coming down on the left, now you may see it some, but I have left a large area in the front to landscape so that it, that isn't so noticeable.
I mean,
it's only not done now because I'm waiting to find out about the fence thing.
I do drive by it on a regular basis.
I
and-
figured someone
and-
here would because.
And I
it's so
noticed it.
large.
I've noticed it. I noticed it before this application came before the board. And I certainly noticed it now that the application was before the board. So I'm just representing that you're kind of at an entranceway into Niskayuna, the location of your property. And you are, the fence is noticeable. That's my point.
Yes.
Does anybody have any other questions?
There are a lot of other 6 foot and even 8 foot front and side yard fences, again, within a 2-block radius of my house. I went around the other day and I have dozens of pictures of other people's. So again, after going through and taking the pictures, it almost seems like there's a lot of houses there with 6 foot fences. There's a lot of houses with 6 foot side, and there's a house right across the street from mine. As you were mentioning, we're right coming into Niskayuna. They have that elderly person's place right across the street from my house on the right. They have like an 8 foot front yard fence. I have a picture of it. It's in the front of their building. I see it every day. And then 2 houses down, even the firehouse has a 6 foot side yard fence, goes all the way to the sidewalk.
Well, sir, I just, not to cut you off, but in
I
terms of,
understand, sure.
in terms of different classes of property, there's different requirements and different
I
zoning
understand that. I
requirements.
just
as to
thought
the
we were
property.
talking visually wise, like there's still
Okay.
a lot of 6 foot fences there. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Does anybody else have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So if I may ask, how much was it for you to install that fence?
It was not much, about $1,000. I think I filled out paperwork for it. I think there's 10 sections or so I paid $70 for or something. I get a discount at the store and we put it in a day.
And you did it yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, well, I had one guy with me, but yes, ma'am.
Would it be difficult to move it?
I think I would probably just bush. I'll put the trees in. As I said, it was going to take long for them to grow, but what I'll do is I'll just get like 60 of them and I'll try to put them like right on top of each other and I'll bring them out some. Should I approach the map again?
Sure.
If I got to do that with the trees, with the bushes, then I don't have a green thumb either, so I'll have to buy the ones that are already grown. I'm sure it will cost quite a bit of money, but then I'm thinking.
Sir, hold on just one second. This so the microphone comes over to you.
Sorry.
As soon as you walk away, we
Thank you,
can hear
ma'am. Sorry. So I will probably have to if I'm doing a tree line, there's no reason to even have this space, for landscaping and stuff. So I would run the tree line probably right against the sidewalk. Again, it'll take a while and it's quite significantly more money because those arborvitaes and stuff, I even put some in around here. Even the hospices nowadays are $30 and $40. So even just to put a large collection of them together and then wait years for them to grow, I do plan to cover the front of the fence. So it's certainly less noticeable. There will be more. Again, if I have to do it with just 3 and 4 year old trees or whatever, there's going to be a lot of them in there. And if I was going to do that, I would just bring it right to the sidewalk. I mean, why even have anything there? Because I can put the trees right against the sidewalk, right? So why even have anything in front of the house then?
Okay, so I guess my question turns to.
Yes, ma'am.
It would be a significant cost to you to take the fence that you installed down and put
It would cost
shrubs
more to do-
instead.
Yes, it would cost more to do that. Yes.
significantly.
So I would say so, yes. Yes, I spent half of the cost of the fence just putting 4 or 5 little tree things in. We have 2 trees in front of the house we had to take down from inspection. There's 6 trees in front of the house. We had to take 2 down. We replaced those with some arborvitaes, and then there's some around the side of the fence and a couple other plant things. But the plants they're not cheap, and I'm really not good at putting them together. So I've got to buy the ones that are a few years old or something to keep them growing.
Okay, a follow-up question
Yes,
to
ma'am.
that. If you were to consider moving your fence
Yes, ma'am.
to a different location, would it be acceptable for it to be moved back to the back corner of the building where you don't need a variance anymore?
It's kind of like a swamp back there.
Even, not as far as the.
I understand it's
barn,
the
but-
garage, but then there's about a 30-foot yard before you're into the swamp. There's about 3 parking spaces wide between the house and the garage. You know what I mean? So if I put that in, there's about a 30-foot yard, and then you're kind of into the mosquitoes and it's weak back there, like the soil.
Okay, so if you're parked in those 3 spots.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
looking west,
Yes, ma'am.
you're saying that area where she's got the cursor that's not suitable.
It's
for-
about 30, so that area right there would be, but that would be the yard. Once you
Right.
got past that, it would be, it would be muddier as you got back.
Muddier.
Yes.
Okay, and could you describe the slope of the land on the west side of the house where you're talking about this, from the
Certainly.
house towards the ditch?
Yes, ma'am. So I have two ditches. I have, because it goes like an L around the house. So I have one in the back of the house and one in the front of the house. But you mean from the front to the back, right?
No, from the
House to the left?
To the left.
Yeah, so that's a much larger ditch on the left side than the one that's behind my house. So that slopes downwards towards the ditch.
Is it steep as it goes
Um,
away from the house, or is it kind of level?
No, I wouldn't say it's level. No, it clearly slopes down, and it kind of slopes up from the sidewalk as well, going towards the fence, then continues on. And then when it kind of peaks about maybe towards the end of the house or a little bit towards in the dry parking lot area. And then it starts to slope down again towards the ditch corner. There's actually a well right in the corner where the ditch runs around it, an old well.
Are there any underground structures in that side yard?
I believe there is an old septic system. I believe there's an old thing there. The house was built in 1870 something like that. So there's there certainly could be. I believe there's even a septic field down there. If it's not there, it's probably somewhere.
Okay, so if the fence was built where I was suggesting,
Yes, ma'am.
it might impact that septic system?
I assume it's somewhere on the side because the well is further towards the back. And as I understand it, I'm not I do the remodeling, but not a full construction builder. I think they have to be at least 100 feet away from the well, the septic systems. So I imagine, I don't know what the terms were back in the 1800s or whatever, but I assume it's probably, the well is all the way in the back corner of the house. You have to clear some foliage out to get towards it. And I imagine it would be at least 100 feet from that, the septic system, I imagine anyway.
Okay, and then a question for Laura. The applicant has mentioned various neighbors having 6-foot fences in their front yards. Did you do a search, and what did you find?
We did not do a search in this area. That wasn't identified until this meeting, so we didn't do a search.
Okay.
I'm happy to
well,
present pictures, ma'am. I have about a dozen.
If you have the pictures with them and you'd like to
Absolutely,
be part
yes,
of
I
the
do.
record, we give you that opportunity to do so.
Yeah, how does it go on the record? I show you guys?
If you don't have a hard copy of it, we're probably not going to be able to do that tonight.
Oh,
So.
okay. All right.
Okay.
I do have them on the phone. I took them yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
I drove up and down the street.
I appreciate that.
Personally. Certainly, yes,
And I
absolutely.
also drive by this almost
Yes.
every day. So like the chairman, I've noticed this, and I did notice it when it went up. So, I was hoping that I'd see what was going on, or if I had missed the application before, that we'd know about it. But it certainly seems to be significant. Are there any options besides taking it down and putting up trees? Any
Well,
other
I-
options you've thought of to try to
I'm
mitigate
not going to
what you're
cut
asking
off
for?
half the yard from the kid, so I'm just going to run it right to the sidewalk with the things, and I can run them all the way down all the way down the sidewalk, I'm pretty sure, right up to my driveway, the trees, the bushes. So, I mean, then she'll just, that's cutting off a significant, I bought an acre and a half and can only use half an acre or something, you know what I mean? So, I thought the fence, we're putting bushes in front of the fence now. My father wants to make you guys aware that we're still landscaping the front of it. But I stopped any projects on it, went to something else because I just wanted to see what was going on with the fence first. I didn't want to have just a bunch of rows of them there.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, certainly. The 6 foot, I just wanted to add quickly, the 6 foot fences, some of them aren't that noticeable. And I understand what you guys are saying, that, I don't think there's a dozen of them there. I'm going to look the next time I'm driving. Left and right on the road, especially as you're going from the One Mobile to the Stewarts, left and right, both sides. There's a lot of them. When you're looking, you actually notice them. I don't have the addresses because I didn't want to tell anybody out, but I have, video of us driving right past them. I stopped in front of some of these houses and stuff the last couple of days and took, good pictures of where you can see the fence and stuff. So there's actually, if you are slowing down looking, because you go so fast on that road, you don't notice everything. But if you slow down, look, sir, you will see a lot of them. I'll admit probably none of them are 60 feet long. A lot of them are 20, 30, something like that. But there are a lot of side and front yard 6 foot fences on the road.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I have looked, and I will say that there are 6-foot fences on the road. I don't know that I would categorize it as a lot of them. And there are other places where there are fences that aren't 6 feet, that are 4 feet, or
Right.
at different locations on the property as opposed to where you've installed the fence.
Yes, sir. I've seen a lot of 4-foot ones in
So-
the front.
So all I'm saying is it's not necessarily always an apples to apples comparison.
Agreed. Yes, sir.
Ms. Robertson, you wanted to say something?
Well, I just wanted to address the 8-foot fence across the street is associated with the memory care home. And
It
because,
is an elderly.
yeah, it's a non-residential use, so they're allowed an 8-foot fence. So
I'm sorry, I was just talking in terms of scene wise, you know what I mean? If the fence is, I think if it was visually unappalling on this side, an even bigger one in the front would be unappalling on the other side. Again, if we're talking zoning, I certainly have no argument there. It's zoned differently, just like the firehouse. There's another one that's a little bit further down, Red Brick Apartment thing. They have a 6-foot vinyl fence. You could touch it from the sidewalk.
Sir, I mean, I can't really speak to every other particular property.
Yes.
In a general sense, it does have an impact on what the impact of your fence is on the community. If everybody has a 6-foot fence, then it lessens it. So I'm not saying it's irrelevant to tonight's proceeding. All I'm saying is, and you don't have the benefit of coming to every zoning board meeting that we sit here and listen to applications. I would say at least a third of the applications are for 6-foot fence variances. Okay. So it's not that you have a unique application. I would also say that most people that come here say that they're putting up the 6-foot fence for the benefit of dogs, privacy, children, so they can play in the yard.
Yes, sir.
That is the background, and I am somewhat always cognizant and careful because if we say yes to certain people and no to other people, every property is unique and has unique
Sure.
factors. You're on Route 7, for instance. Not everybody lives on Route
Yes.
7, okay? So I appreciate that, but I just want to give you a little bit of the background as to where we're coming from, okay?
Yes,
We
sir.
don't want to be in a situation where arbitrarily certain people get 6-foot fences and other people don't,
Right.
okay? Okay. Try not to pick on anybody. And so that's from my perspective as the chairman. That's just my perspective. Everybody on the board has a different perspective on this. That's how I look at these applications. So we historically have been very strict with respect to the application of the code, which, you know, a variance is an exception to the code that says you can't have 6-foot fences.
Yes.
And there's various factors that we're trying to employ, including, is there any alternatives? And one of the alternatives you put up, you've indicated tonight that does exist, is the installation of arborvitaes along your property line, which would allow you to accomplish the same thing you're seeking to accomplish.
In a few years, I would think, because they take time to grow, but yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
So that's one of our factors. Does anybody have any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, just recommendation. I mean, by looking at this, if I was driving on Route 7,
Yes, sir.
how is it possible to move that fence about 3/4 way to the back of your house?
Well, see, again, 3/4 of the way would cut off a significant section of the house. Again, it would be, I would just seal off the whole front of the house then with the bushes or something like that and
Right.
just use the whole house.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I understand what
even
you're
if,
saying. You're gonna put trees and so on, but you
Yeah.
said it takes you 2-3 years to.
It
grow.
does. That's why the fence is kind of a stopgap so I
So-
can get them
So
going.
would a 4 feet fence do it if you
The
put
4
trees?
feet won't. I also have videos of my daughter climbing. She climbs over the 39-cent deck rails, second story deck, no fear or anything. She's up before I turn around. I take her down. She jumps up the other side. She climbs right up. She's tall and it goes up a hill. So maybe 6 feet in the front, but it's not 6 feet, 2 feet back on the inside.
So my question to you.
Yes, sir.
Just tell me if you move it back halfway, 3/4 way, it's not doable.
It wouldn't be. I'd be
Okay.
significantly cutting off
That's
a
it.
portion of
Thank
the
you.
yard.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? Having heard none, are there any members of the audience, the community that would like to be heard this evening, either for or against the application? Having heard none, is there any one on the board who would like to make a motion either to approve or to deny the application? Having heard no one, I will go forward and make a motion. Sir, I appreciate your application, and this isn't always an enviable task. I understand that you have certain unique factors to your property, but you know it's my position that typically we're very strict in the application of the 6-foot fence variance application for the reason that I previously stated to maintain some consistency with similarly situated situations. You don't have the benefit of seeing other applicants that have come before the board and have been denied. We have a strict guidelines that we have to adhere to, and you have to satisfy to allow us to grant you the variance. And probably the most important variable is whether the applicant can achieve the same goal with an alternative means. And that alternative means in this situation could be the installation of arborvitaes along the front property boundary line. I understand it would not resolve your issue immediately, but it would go a far ways to resolve it. You could also install a 4-foot fence at the current location, or you can move your fence back, as some of the members on the board have suggested. The question of whether it will create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. The location of your house is unique that it's on Route 7. It's also unique in the sense that it's, in my opinion, on a gateway into Niskayuna. Everybody can see your property, and I've seen your property multiple times, and I see the fence. And the code envisions that fences in front yards will not be allowed in Niskayuna. So to the extent those variables indicate that, it would create, in my opinion, an undesirable change in the neighborhood to have the 6-foot fence remain where it is in the community. Hold on, let me just finish,
Yes,
Sarah.
sir.
We're at the point where I'm going to make the motion, and then we'll see what the other members have to say. The variance is substantial for the reasons that I've stated. So those 3 factors would aggravate against the application. Is there any physical or environmental effects from the fence that would affect the neighborhood? No, I don't believe that that's in fact the case. And was the alleged difficulty self-created? That's the final variable we look at. Now, generally speaking, that variable isn't given as much weight as the other variables traditionally, because every time somebody applies for a variance, to a certain extent, it's self-created. So we don't necessarily consider that as heavily. However, in your particular case, you installed the fence without the permit.
Yes.
And based upon your profession as a contractor and some knowledge that you should have applied for a permit, I think that factor also would aggravate against the approval of the variance. So as much as I am sympathetic to your situation, I appreciate your candor. I appreciate your application. But notwithstanding, I am going to have to move to deny the variance. So that is my motion. A motion has been made. Is there a second to that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to second the motion and for denial. Also, we gave the option to the applicant that there is other ways to be able to manage and put that fence somewhere. And I know from the past that we had, this board is very, will approve fences in the front yards. For all the reason you stated in mine, I say yes to the motion.
A motion has been made and seconded. Before we vote on the motion, is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, I do have a question for Elena. With respect to Mr. Dolman, he was not present for the beginning.
Yes,
Okay.
for purposes of the record, since he wasn't here for the full discussion, he's not going to vote on it.
Okay. I was just wondering whether the legal opinion was whether it would be possible to give the applicant the choice to allow him to participate or not to participate.
It would actually be Mr. Dolman's decision since he wasn't here for the full discussion. He would be the one to make the decision as to whether or not he was comfortable with the information that he was here for, whether or not he could formulate a proper.
Understood.
Based on that.
Understood.
Mr. Chairman, I did have the opportunity to review the applicant's application. I did have the opportunity to see the property in question. However, I did not hear the first few minutes of his discussion here today. And in the interests of fairness, I would like to abstain.
Thank you, Mr. Dolman. Okay, that issue has been resolved with discussion. Is there any other discussion on the application? Okay, having heard no additional discussion, Ms. Shigetti, will you call the roll?
Mr. Lataif?
Yes to the motion.
Mr. Dolman is abstain. Ms. Pacheco?
Yes to the motion as stated.
Mr. Stein?
Yes to the motion as stated. I also want to add that I do understand you're trying to protect your kid. I think there's probably some things you could do with the 4-foot fence, making it kind of resistant to climbing, things like that. That could resolve the issue.
Mr. Green?
I'm sympathetic to your situation and your family situation, but I'm constrained in light of the restriction imposed upon Niskayunians with regard to 6-foot fences in the front yard. I want you to know that I visited your site and I even parked my car and I walked Troy-Schenectady Road up and down. So I just want you to know I gave this a really good hard look.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm appreciative of your application and your testimony and your concerns. However, as I indicated to you, I feel that for the reasons stated, I am also going to have to vote yes in support of the motion to deny.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes, for the reasons stated. Sir, your variance unfortunately has been denied by a vote of 6-0. Okay.
Yes, sir. And,
So you can talk to the building department about, you
Sure.
know,
Is there an appeal process or?
not, you'll have to talk to the building department
Oh,
about
they'll know that? Okay.
They'll know that, yes.
Sir. Yeah, I'll call Mr. Canizzo there. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Yes.
thank
I'm
you.
all set.
You're all set, sir.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. I
you.
need to get any paperwork or anything.
I don't believe so, not this
Okay,
evening.
excellent. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Kitty, will you call the next matter, please?
The appeal of Leslie Gordon for a variance from Section 220-13, Schedule IC of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskiuna as it applies to the property at 1817 Hillside Ave, Niskiuna, New York, located in the R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning District, to maintain a 12 square foot freestanding sign which exceeds the size limit allowed. Section 220-13, Schedule IC permits one permanent sign not to exceed 2 square feet. The sign is 12 square feet, therefore a 10 square foot sign variance is required. 14 notices were mailed, 2 responses.
Dear Niskuna Zoning Board of Appeals, the property is located at the acute angle intersection of Hillside and Pawtucket Avenue, 2 residential side streets for which the speed limit is 30 miles per hour. Anyone obeying the speed limit should be able to read a conforming sign to find the business or safely pull over to record the phone number. The applicant's goal for the oversized sign appears to be to advertise the business to those driving on Providence Avenue. I don't believe that justifies burdening the very residential neighborhood with an oversized sign. Given the traffic and speed on Providence, the oversized sign will likely be ineffective, but could be a distraction to those driving that road. Very truly yours, Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. To the Zoning Board of Appeals, we approve of Leslie Gordon's request for a freestanding 12 square foot sign for home occupation. Mr. and Mrs. Melvin Simon, 1736 Hillside Avenue.
Good evening. Good evening.
Sorry, good night.
No, that's okay. Why don't you just tell us your name and where you live?
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. My name is Leslie Gordon. So my language speak is Spanish. So I try my English. It's not too good for your group, but I try because my husband is told me I need to try because I want to talk in you all the group. Okay. So I'm sorry.
So far, so good.
I'm sorry if I say no good words. So I don't know I in mistakes, but I try I communication with the us.
Well,
Okay?
thank you. Thank you. I've spoken English all my life, and I still look for a good word sometimes. So
I
I
am try.
I
So
appre- I-
I'm sorry if I mistakes.
appreciate that.
Okay.
So you're residing at the residence, correct?
Yes, me and my husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about why you need the well, first of all, let me tell you that I have some good news. Okay. Since the time that this matter was before the board, originally, I'm not sure if anybody has told you, originally the variance needed to be for the sign being attached to the property as well as the size of the property. So there were kind of like two variances you needed. Now, after the planning board has, or Ms. Robertson has looked at, along with the town attorney, has looked at the rules a little bit further. They've found that you only need a variance for the size. It doesn't have to be affixed to your property, okay? And that's because of the use of your property is for a home daycare, which is kind of like an exception to the rule, okay? So that means what I'm saying is you need a lesser variance tonight than you otherwise would have. Okay? So that's good.
That's good.
Okay. So why don't you go ahead and I'm going to stop talking. Why don't you tell me in your words why you need the sign where it is and you need the size of the sign?
Okay. So the first I wanna say I'm sorry because I live in this country for 5 years, okay? So I try for the I learning for your country for the rules in here or everything. So my husband is by the home for 2 years past. So I make a business. I try with the papers in my business, so difficult. So for my home baker, my husband is a homie with this. So now I told my husband is a promise me, oh, I'm making you sign so you have to license with your taker. So okay, I try. But I don't know, it's my question, so I don't know, is rules for the, you live in the Niskayuna or Albany or, no, in the United States, so has a rule for put a sign for side or, no, for the side.
Okay.
No?
Can you just come up to the microphone so we can hear you?
I'm sorry.
So okay, I understand what I believe you're saying is you didn't know the rules
Mhm.
before you installed the sign.
Yeah, I'm
right?
sorry for this.
And you didn't intend to violate the rules, but you didn't know about them, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What your sign is of a particular size. It's 12 square feet. It's pretty big, correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry. for
So, well, my question is, why do you need a sign that big? Why couldn't you make it smaller?
this. Okay. I want to be because it's a put in the corner of the house, no? It's a see you put in this house in the corner of the house, you see the hillside and panchute, ¿cómo se dice? Pantoque, no? The people is the car pass is the sea. See, my son is a 2 feet, it's a little one. For the letters, is not see the people. I have a letters in here for my neighborhoods. For is a not like in my side is no problem with this. I has a customer for my business. I has a letters in here for is like in my sign because is the people is a see me.
Okay,
Mhm.
so you're indicating that you have letters with you in support of the sign, correct?
Yeah.
Why don't you give them to us so we can make them a part of the record? Those letters that you have.
Oh, sorry.
Why don't you hand them to Mr. Antikowski on the? Okay, just hand them up and you go back to the microphone, okay? Okay, so let me ask you some more questions. Well, everybody has an opportunity to look at the letters. First, how many children do you have in the daycare?
Oh, okay. Now I has the baby two como 7 kids
Okay.
for different times because my license is permission for 16 kids.
Okay.
The rule for the kids is 4 under the 2, 8 and the 2 and the 5, and 4
Just
for
hold
the
on. You have
female.
7 now, and how many is the maximum for? 16?
16 for
Okay.
the rule for the age.
So of the 7, where do the 7 come from? Are they in Niskayuna or are they outside of Niskayuna?
Oh, in Niskayuna and what is that place in it? Transfer and Schenectady.
So my question is, how many of the kids that you watch now came to the daycare as a result of the sign? How many saw the sign and came to the daycare?
How many saw?
Saw the sign and called you based upon the sign. Did anybody
Oh,
come to you and say, we saw the sign
Yes.
and that's why we're coming to this daycare?
Yes.
Okay.
I called for all my fathers is for the see my sign. The another fathers is coming for I don't know space. I call so I'm sorry I don't know space.
So you are getting a benefit from the sign.
Yes. The first time was I put it this. All more fathers is a call me with this, and my neighborhood so is told me, oh, you have daycare in here, so it's a busy meet. It's a see that daycare.
And if the sign was smaller, it would be 2 square feet would be what would be allowed. I assume that you feel that nobody would be able to see that sign. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And then
Because I try for putting the Google or putting the another page up is not call me all the time. So it's putting the sign. It's more the people is call me.
So you're getting, what you're telling me is you're getting more benefit from the sign than any kind of online advertising you were doing.
Yes, and using online is not call me with this. I'm more calling with the people see the sign.
Now, you have neighbors on either side of you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. For the es que se llama River Road. In the River Road is a busy meet for see the sign.
Okay, your neighbors, has any neighbor come to you and objected to the sign or said that they didn't like the sign?
No, it's perfect. It has a letter for my.
No, I understand we have the letters.
Mhm.
I don't know where these letters are from. Are any of these so I see somebody from 1828 Pawtucket Avenue,
Yes.
and they are for the sign. I note
Mhm.
that you have, it looks like you've taken a census of your neighbors' opinions on with respect to the signs.
Yeah.
And I see that several of the neighbors have indicated to you that they do not have a problem with the sign,
No,
correct?
he's the people is told me she like it with the put
Okay.
my business. He put my sign in there because this is the part is be quiet. So he's like it that perfectly with the daycare for the kids. No.
Okay.
It's
And
nicely.
I just have a question for you. You've created these flyers for your neighbors to respond to you, correct? Your neighbors, you gave them this, correct?
Yes, I touched the doors.
Sure, no, I understand.
Yes.
And-
Personally,
okay.
personally.
Just wait for my question. So my question is, of the people, were there any people that you gave this to that handed back a yes, that they found the sign bothersome?
¿Qué dijo? No.
Okay.
It's
And
fine.
nobody else has come to you on their own,
Mhm, it's around for the house. Yes.
right? And nobody else has come on their own and said that they were
No.
they had a problem with the property, correct?
Mhm. No,
the sign rather?
no, for around my house, no, never, never for my,
Okay.
for this.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask other members of the board. They may have questions for you. Okay.
Yes, no
So does
problem.
any members of the board have questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Dolman.
may I?
Sure.
I just have one question. What do you believe the effect on your business might be if you were to create a sign that was within the limits allowed under the zoning regulations?
Ok, él dice que, él dice que si sacara el esto en que me afecta, ¿verdad? O lo voy a quitar. Yeah. Okay. I has a response for this. When the I don't know, remember with the letter, my second letter for the cartel. So I topped up my sign. So yo tapé, ¿cómo se dice tapé? Cover my sign with the cover for 1 week probably or 1.5 weeks. Nothing my phone is coming for the daycare. One day is a very wind day. If the cover is down, if the past this is the people is coming. Is that true?
So you believe that a significant source of your business's revenue come from that sign? By the way, I pass by your house nearly every day, bringing my kid where he's got to go. You've probably seen us bike by your house 100 times. So I'm very familiar with the area. But you think that this is an important part of your business and that it would be material harm if you had to change it, that you would lose money if you had to change it?
The people not see me. So this is my problem. So see, it's smaller, the people not see me. So
Okay.
my competition is very hard because my competition for me is for centers. The centers is close in JCC. The center is close in Balton Road, close Shop Drive. It's a center.
My
Yeah.
son goes to the JCC. That's why I drive by every day.
Yeah, yes. I have a gym, my husband and me and my son. So it's the 3 center is closed for me. So see, I a little small in my sign, I lose. It's my competition is more hard. No, it's a different. The mine is too small. It's only for 16 kids. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Dolman, do you have anything else?
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dolman. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have just one question. When did you put up the sign?
Cuando yo puse el sign, ¿verdad? Okay. My license is in March. Past my license. I don't know exactly. April, I think so. I don't know exactly.
March 2023?
I don't remember, but my license is in for me is in March. So
Of 2023?
yes, this year. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And the sign went up
Ye-
sometime after that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Does anybody else have any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, just quickly. Hola, ¿cómo está?
Ay, hablas español.
¿Qué tal te la
Thank you,
pasaste?
gracias. Ahora voy a
Ah,
playarme.
Question for you.
So.
If you were to make the sign smaller, about halfway, half of the sign,
Tú me dices la mitad.
yes,
Okay.
would that work for you? Because the
Ah,
sign now is too big.
Oh my goodness.
So it's 2 feet, it's allowed.
Mhm.
If you make it 6 feet, would that work for you?
The true, I think so, is affecting me because it's como 6 feet, no? 6 feet. So I think so, yes, because it's in the corner, my sign, no? It's put in the corner, of my
Right, but
house.
right now, the sign is 5 times bigger than what we
Mhm.
allow on the zoning board, or
Mhm.
the town allows.
Mhm.
And so if you were to make it maybe 4 by 4 something like that. Would that work for you?
It's not.
Instead of 12 square feet?
I know, understand the position, but that is so difficult because it's more smaller. So the letters is more small. So sometimes the people not see for small signs.
Okay,
So,
so is it
see, I
yes or no? Just tell me yes or no.
no,
No?
sorry.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Gordon, if the sign was smaller, it would be more difficult to read, correct?
Mhm.
And if it was more difficult to read, the cars that are driving by your property, they would either have to slow down to read the sign so they could get the numbers and characters off the sign, correct?
Mhm.
And would you agree that that could potentially cause a hazard for people driving if they had to slow to see your sign?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes, because
is-
it's a see you see for daycare, so you more driving carefully, no? Because I'm driving, I see the signs the kids is for here you driving slow, so I'm driving slow because I don't want to kill
Right.
never kids.
The sign is large enough, though, that
Mhm.
you can read it
Mhm.
easily without having to slow down
Mhm.
and potentially cause a hazard, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Is there anything else from any other members of the board?
Yes, just another question about
Tell
the
me.
sign. How much did it cost to make that sign?
$250.
Did you make it yourself or was it made for you?
Mhm.
Oh,
My
okay.
husband is making because it's good chance with making something.
Understood. And I think just to follow up on the chairman's question about people reading the sign and where they are reading it from, if the sign were made smaller and just said daycare, do you think that that could attract business the way that your current sign does?
O sea, que en vez tendría que quitarle Leslie y solo poner Baker. O por la Pero por eso, quitar Leslie y quitar Home y poner solo Baker. Pero el letrero se queda así. No, tendría que achicarse, ¿verdad? Okay. So you told me with the small sign again. So it only put daycare, no Leslie Home daycare. So when I put daycare, the people not see the number. The phone number is not coming because this is the homie for Leslie Home daycare for the number. If the people is coming or look at me in the Facebook, he looking me in the OFS. No, OFSG, lo que me supervisa, the children family service.
Are there?
Because it's security for looking for the people.
Okay, let me follow up because you just mentioned something that I didn't think of before. Are there requirements from the licensing about your signage? For example, is it a requirement to have the phone number on a sign for the license?
From a legal standpoint, it's not. I
Oh.
never got that actually.
Yes, because the problem in the homemakers all the time, with I am father, no, so I am parents, so you question normally, so the homes is different for centers, no? The home is in the home with the family, or family group or family. So the problem is the father is not comfy because all the time with the interview, I have an interview, Salara, so the father is telling me, you have a license? So you have a license because I see for this one, but you have a license. Yes, I have my license. I put in my wall. You see me. See, you need to look at my number in this This is a website, so no problem.
Okay, so my question was about the sign. I understand that you have the license and that's posted inside the building where your, the parents who come to you can see that information. I think our attorney had a comment here.
Yes, so the Office of Children and Family Services, they essentially require us to allow group family daycares in the single-family homes or in multifamily dwellings, but with respect to like building code issues and fire code issues, they don't grant, the state doesn't grant that. So they don't have any requirements that there be signage or that the signage have a phone number on it.
Okay, thank you for that.
I think the original question, Ms. Pacheco, was whether the sign that just displayed the words daycare would be as good as the sign that you have right now, right?
It was essentially that. I'm trying to help you think of ways to reduce the amount of variance that you are requesting. Because right now, as Mr. Latif said, what you are allowed is 2 square feet and you're asking for an additional 10 square feet, 5 times the amount. So that is a very large amount to be asking for a variance from what is allowed. So that's my question to you is, would you consider making a smaller sign in some way that would help us see that you're trying to make that a smaller request?
Okay, understand. Okay, you wanna, I'm making another one for small. So I thinking in this in the past, but the problem is the people know is see me sometime for this. So I try with my question with my parents. So what you think? Say I put a 2 feet, no, for my sign in there is not see me. So me, see you put in that sign for 2 sign, two squares for this. I don't see you because it's too small. It is more chiquito. You put in there in the floor, so in the yard, it's not see me.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding you properly. So you had someone hold something small
I'm
there,
thinking in this.
and
Yes.
and you looked at it
Mhm.
from a distance, and to you, it looked like it was too small and unreadable.
Yes, yes. This is my problem. So I question with my father for this. No, see, I want a reduction with my sign. So it's told me it's don't see. So I sometimes the fathers is recommending me for another fathers. So sometimes we after my sign look at with the home is the people is what is your home? What is the daycare? Because I don't find you. No,
Thank you.
no, you're welcome.
I think
no
that is it.
problem.
Anybody else?
I don't have a question, but if the record could reflect that the letters that were provided from the applicant were 7 from the neighbors and 5 from customers. And they were all in support.
And I would move to have them included in the record. Any objections?
No,
Having heard no objections, I'd like to have that included, please. Is there anyone in the community that would like to be heard for or against the applicant? That's okay. We don't anticipate anybody being here, but there's people online that potentially could appear. And having heard no one from the community that would like to be heard for or against the applicant, I would ask the board if there's any member of the board that would like to make an application or a motion for or against the application.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion.
Yes, Mr. Dolman.
I would move to approve the variance as requested for these reasons. First off, I know the intersection well, and the benefit of having that sign there is the advertising of the business. Just because I have a family member who works for OCFS, I said, hey, do you know anything about this place? They said, no, just that it's licensed. And they know it's there because of the sign. So that was an indication to me that that is an important part of their business. Also, knowing the neighborhood very well, I don't believe that this sign is aesthetically an undesirable change in the neighborhood. And additionally, as the applicant believes that the sign would harm their business, I think it would be a negative change in the community to lose a childcare business that provides loving care like this. We have a significant shortage of those sorts of businesses. I do find this is absolutely substantial. I agree with my colleagues in that. I don't see any environmental impact here, and this is self-created, though that is not determinative. On the balance, I would move to approve the variance as requested.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I will second that motion, but I would like to add that can we amend that the motion gets granted only as long as the sign says what it currently says or is advertisement for daycare?
Oh, I believe that the application would, or the variance approved as it stands now would be for the size and not the content of the sign. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
And is it possible to put a limitation on the content of the sign?
No, you definitely can't put any type of limitation on the content as long as it's within our code specifications.
Then I'm going to withdraw my second of the motion.
Okay. So a motion has been made. Is there a second to the motion? The motion still has not been seconded. Is there a second to the motion? I will second the motion. My justification, and I appreciate some of the issues that Mr. Dolman has brought up that I didn't even think about, to be honest with you, is the benefit to the community of having the sign allows for additional people to see the sign and to allow your business to thrive. And that is important to the community as a whole. So one of the factors that we typically look for is, will it present an undesirable change to the neighborhood? And in this particular circumstance, this application is somewhat unique in that not only will it not provide an undesirable change in the neighborhood, but it'll provide a desirable change in the neighborhood, which is having home daycares available to the community. With respect to the benefit, whether the benefit could be achieved by other feasible means, I don't believe so. And while I acknowledge that the application is substantial, I believe that if we reduce the signage by 2 feet or 4 feet, that would really degrade the benefit that the applicant is trying to achieve by advertising her business in the first instance. In addition, the applicant, to her credit, took a substantial amount of time to do a census of her community to reach the conclusion that a significant number of her neighbors were not only were actually in support of the signage, didn't have any objection to it, although I would note that there was one community member who did write in this evening objecting to it. I would say that the majority of the community was in support, as well as your customers, who may also, some of them, be part of the community as well. Balancing it, I don't believe that there's any environmental impact. And while this is self-created, I do believe that this is somewhat distinguished from other self-created situations in the fact that, I do take the applicant at her word that she was not aware of the zoning requirements with respect to the signage and the need for variance in the first instance. I would indicate that it's somewhat complicated by the fact that, we had the town had to research the matter before we could come to a firm conclusion on what was necessary under the circumstances for the signage at this particular location and your use as a home daycare center. So for all those reasons, balancing the factors, and again, acknowledging that this is a substantial sign, I would vote to approve the motion. So I second it for those reasons. go ahead and take.
Mr.
Oh, is
Chairman,
is
do we
there?
have a discussion?
Yes, is there any discussion on the application? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to confirm with Laura is to make sure that the sign, we understand that the sign is going to be 12 by 12. But I want to make sure the hours is 7 to 5 and there's no lights on the sign because that's the concern for me. When it comes to signs, usually we put a limit on. So I just want to make sure that sign doesn't have a light after 5
Agreed.
o'clock or and so on.
So that's definitely a condition that you could put
Right,
on it,
right.
time,
Right.
place, and manner. You could
Right.
definitely put a no lighting of the residential sign there.
We've done
So,
that in the past and other
Mhm.
signs, so Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to do is make sure that we don't have lights for the neighbors at night because the business is only 7 to 5, I think that's the.
this was,
There's a motion without conditions on the table that's been made and seconded, so we can't add conditions at this point unless that motion counts.
Mr. Chairman,
okay, so what, so
can I
I
amend my motion?
I think the answer is no. Is that your position?
Yes.
Yes, because you have a motion, it's been seconded, then there can be a motion to amend before a vote.
Mr. Chairman, I move to amend the motion as stated and to add the condition that the sign remain unlit.
A motion to amend the motion to approve the application has been made.
So now there needs to be a second on the motion to
Yeah,
amend.
yeah.
I
A
second
vote
this.
on,
Okay,
a vote on the amendment,
I got it.
and then a vote on the motion, or, yeah, the motion.
Got it. I think so.
Okay.
Correct me when I go wrong. There's been a motion made. Now I have to repeat that. I had it right the first time. I'm going to mess it up the second time. There's a motion to amend the motion to approve your application, to put a limitation on it that there can be no lighting. The sign can't be lit. That motion has been made and now it needs a second. Is there
I
a
second
second?
the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and Mr. Latif has seconded the motion to amend the primary motion to approve the application. So we need a vote on the motion to amend.
Mr. Latif,
Yes.
Mr. Dolman,
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
No,
Mr. Antonikowski,
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke.
Yes. So the motion to amend, the motion that was pending to approve your variance has passed. So the next motion that we will be voting on, okay, will be to approve your variance with the limitation that it cannot be lit. The sign can't be lit, okay?
Let us lights, no?
Yeah, right.
Lights.
Correct.
I don't have lights.
Good.
No problem then.
Somebody else.
So, just so you know, if the variance, they're gonna take a vote on it, and if it passes, that means at no point in time can you add lights. So we understand that there's no lights right now, but you can't add lights in the future.
No problem. It's fine.
Okay, so can we go ahead and take a vote on the motion as amended?
Mr. Latif,
I'm going to vote yes. I think the sign looks good. Good job has been done on it. And my reason for saying this, all the neighbors were okay with it. We have, I think, 7 neighbors. They didn't want the sign down. And I think as Mr. Dolman, Mr. Hope mentioned, that this is good for the community, for the business. For all these reasons, I'm going to say yes.
Mr. Dolman,
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Ms. Pacheco,
I'm going to vote yes, but I do want to explain that it is a balance of concerns. I appreciate what you're trying to do for the community. Absolutely. It's a great business to have in the area. And whether what you achieve with having the sign can be produced some other way, I don't see. Is it undesirable? No. It is substantial in terms of size. So being 10 times larger is the substantial part of it. But hearing the neighbors or seeing the testimony of the neighbors in support of this, I think helps balance it in your favor. So while it was a struggle and I was thinking about it, if the sign said something else, we might not like it being so large. But if it were something else, that's the difficulty that we're struggling with. But I appreciate what you're doing. So for me, the balance is that it is a positive thing to happen. It does not have any obvious physical or environmental effects. And while it is self-created as a business happening there, this is not determining as a negative. So I vote yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Stein?
I'm fully supportive of you advertising your daycare business there. My concern is that a 12-foot sign being approved in the future would lead to other people wanting 12-foot signs saying other things in their property. So for that reason, I'm going to vote no.
Mr. Green?
Lo siento mucho. Muy grande.
It's okay, I understand.
You know, the sign, in my humble estimation, does change the character of the neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood. The benefit, in my humble estimation, could be achieved with a smaller sign. It's a substantial request. It's sticking a very large sign in a residential neighborhood. And while I'm appreciative that the information before us indicates that the present residents don't have a problem, a lot of people, in the future might not so much appreciate such a large sign in a residential neighborhood. I believe a residential neighborhood in Niskayuna. It is self-created. Humbly, I say to you, yes, I understand that the sign in your mind and estimation is bringing in business. And I don't pretend to know anything about home daycare, but my thought is, the reality is that may be true right now, but the real reason why your business is going to thrive or not is word of mouth. So respectfully, I am voting no.
It's okay, thank you.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Voting yes for the reasons stated. I think the most compelling piece to me is that while the advertising is great for your business, I think it does alert traffic and neighborhood traffic to kids that may be in the area, safety concerns around that. So I think that's the most compelling piece to me to approve the motion.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes, for the reasons stated. So your application passes by a vote of 5-2, 5 in favor, 2 against. So your variance has been approved. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for opening your business in
Thank
Niskayuna.
you. I want to shake your hands, all of the group, please. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you. This is a first.
I know those that look. I wish you would. Your variance is good. God bless.
Great. Good luck. Thanks. Okay. Have a good evening. Mr. Kay, we call the last matter on the agenda, please.
Appeal by Liam Dunn and Rebecca Backstrom for a variance from Section 220-25B1A of the zoning code of the town of zoning ordinance of the town of Niskayuna as it applies to the property at 3415 Leroy Street, Niskayuna, New York, located in the R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District, to replace and add to a 6-foot-high fence which exceeds the height limit in the front and side yards. The property is a corner lot. As defined, it has fronts along Leroy Street and Fillmore Ave. Fence Section 220-25B1A permits the maximum height for fences located in the front and side yards to be 4 feet. As proposed, a 6-foot-high fence will be located in the front yard along Fillmore Ave and in the side yard. Therefore, a 2-foot fence height variance is required. 12 notices were mailed, 2 responses.
To Town of Niskuna Zoning Board of Appeals from Lisa Brown, 225 Stanford Ave, 12304. Variance requested for 3415 Leroy Street. Sorry, that's regarding. In response to your letter of October 6 regarding a zoning variance for 3415 Leroy Street, I am entirely in favor of the proposed zoning change. The rear yard of my property faces Fillmore Ave. A 6-foot fence is fine. If you have any questions, I can be reached. Contact information is included. Please confirm that you have received this letter. Thanks. Lisa Brown. Good afternoon. My name is Megan Marsh. I live next to this property on the left. The couple and family have done an enormous amount of work on this property, cleaning up unsafe trees, removing multiple bushes and various large plants and beyond. All of this has actually made the driving view from the corner much easier. I use that corner frequently, and it has been great to see it get cleaned up and well kept. Having a 6-foot fence doesn't obstruct the view of any drivers, nor does it appear as an eyesore. The fence has been 6 foot high since I moved here 8 years ago. In my opinion, this fence would make the property and neighborhood more beautiful, and I do not oppose their new 6-foot fence at all. In fact, I think it will be very nice. Sincerely, Megan Marsh.
Thank you. Ma'am, will you want to state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Rebecca Backstrom. And 3415 Waverly Street in Schenectady.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your application? And before you start, I guess it's my understanding that there was not a fence here originally, or there was a fence.
There was a fence.
Okay.
So the fence, the 6-foot fence goes to the back corner of the house.
Hold on.
Been there, and we're looking to extend it to the front corner of the house as well.
So why don't you take the microphone and just explain to us on the map there exactly where the existing fence is and where you're looking to extend it, if you don't mind.
There should be a picture that's existing. Sure.
Oh.
So currently, the way the fence goes is it goes across the back, comes down 13 feet from the road, and then ends at the back corner of the house. What we're looking to do is have it continue the rest of the length of the house and come to the front 6 foot.
And the fence is not currently installed, correct?
No, the additional part is not installed yet.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to get the lay of the land, so we're all on the same page talking about this. Why don't you go ahead and tell us why you need the fence and what steps, if any, you've taken to mitigate the need for the additional fence?
Yep. So we have 2 golden retrievers, one of the age 1 and the other the age 2. So they're very young, athletic dogs who can easily jump a 4-foot fence. So that's one of our main concerns. So the 4-foot fence would be to the side of the road where it is. You can see in one of the pictures, there's a field right across from it. And then further back is a cemetery. So we have a bunch of kids in our neighborhood that play on that field all year round. They play ball. Sometimes it ends up towards our yard. And my concern is if the dogs are out in the back and they see them playing in the field, that they'll want to go play ball, or if the ball ends up towards our yard and the kids are coming to get it, then they might reach in to try to pet our dogs, which they're very friendly, but I don't want them wanting to jump over the fence to play with the kids. We also have a lot of foot traffic on that road, a lot of walkers, runners, bikers. People have to walk up and down that road to school where they pass our house.
And then we're also right next to the Pine Bush Preserve. So we get a lot of animals right next to our yard or in our yard. So there's been like turkeys, a bunch of deer. And then last year there was even a bear right next to our property. So that concerns me. I don't want them to get in my yard, and I don't want my dogs to get out, especially with a bear and turkeys and deer that they might want to chase and play with. And then my last thing is just the snow accumulation as well. In the winter time, they love to play in their snow. So I'm afraid once the snow starts piling up, it's even more easier for them to jump that fence, and those kids still play in that field even with the snow. So it just concerns us. We want to keep them in our yard and safe.
Are there any members of the board that have questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I got a couple questions. So I'm looking at the yellow. The yellow is already there?
Yes. Yep. The
And
yellow is the 6-foot fence that's already there.
And your own, so that yellow is already the fence on Fillmore?
Yes.
Okay. And you're adding where the red is down?
Yep. To the
Okay.
front corner.
So you already have a fence in the back of the house?
Yes. It's 6-foot wood fence. We're looking to replace it with a 6-foot white vinyl fence.
Okay.
And that's a old picture of the house too. I think there's one where it's a
So
little.
there's a lot of trees in there. stuff here.
Yeah, we cleared all of those out. There's a picture of it all cleaned up somewhere in there. There.
Okay, so that's what it looks like right now.
Yes.
So you're gonna take that piece from the back of the house and move it to the front, and you're gonna expand the fence.
Yep, to that front corner. We would
Okay.
like to.
And how far is that fence from that corner of the back of the house to the side?
To
You know?
the side of the road.
No, to the side of your fence. So from the back of the house, you have a fence going, right?
From the back of our property line,
Yes,
it would be, I think around 40 feet.
40 inch. And how big is the fence that you have already there?
It's a 6-foot fence.
6 foot, and what's the width of the fence?
It runs basically from the back corner of the house, 40 feet back to the property line, and then goes, I would say, roughly 100 feet. to the other property line
100
corner.
feet? So that's not enough for your dogs and stuff? And I don't see, you don't have a door, right, on the side of the house there?
No,
Not on the
Not that side.
side of the house. We were looking to move it to the front just to,
What
Use-
would that give you if you move it to the front?
it would, we'd be able to use more of our property for the backyard. We, also, if that 6-foot was moved to the front of the house, you can see that we have a big picture window that our dogs are staring at right there when we took the picture. So that also just creates more privacy. Sometimes we have that window open too, and we don't have screens in there yet, but we will have screens in there. It's a new window. So, they're constantly looking at it, kids, all the
Okay.
traffic and
Let
everything.
me ask you this, so this is Fillmore, the one we're looking at,
Yes.
and Leroy is the other one.
Yep.
So tell me about the traffic. If a car's coming on Leroy and you have that fence all the way up to the front, is that gonna cause problem for people to see cars on Fillmore?
no.
I would say it's pretty far from the corner and also from how it looked like before.
So how
You
far
couldn't
is
see.
that front of your house to Leroy Street?
I think we have another picture too to show it
'Cause
easier, but I don't know.
Looking at the
feet.
map, it's about 25 feet. I just wanna put that on the record.
To the property line.
There, you can see where
Right,
you
from
would
the
turn
front.
from the front to the front corner.
So, again, if you put the fence all the way up, don't you think that cars might have difficulty going around the corner and making sure they can see through? Because this is like a corner.
I personally think that they would be able to see. We've also asked neighbors around saying that this is what we were looking at doing and they're for
Sure.
it. And then also from what it looked like before we cleared it, you couldn't see that corner without going into the street of Fillmore. So it's a lot easier for them to see with the work that we've done as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm good.
I just had a question. Is the fence as it exists now, is that in compliance? It's not currently in compliance, correct? Is it a non-conforming
Yes.
pre-existing?
So this, we couldn't find a building permit for it. We couldn't say for sure that it was built before, 1971, but we couldn't say that it wouldn't either. So generally speaking, we would treat it as a pre-existing non-conforming.
Okay, so if they were to remove the existing fence, they would not be entitled to put the fence up where it is now without a variance, correct?
Well, yeah, I
If it-
always get a little confused, and Elena is saying yes, but I feel like most of the time, if it's an act of nature that destroys the 6-foot fence, they are allowed to rebuild it. But if they're choosing to take away the pre-existing non-conforming, then they would need a variance.
Wasn't this always the issue of a repair versus a replacement? They're
Yeah.
entitled to repair it, they're not entitled to replace it.
With fences.
So all I was indicating was that your fence as it stands right now is a pre-existing non-conforming use. It's not in compliance with the code as it stands right now. And if you decided outside of the variance application that you're applying for tonight to just replace that, okay, decided you wanted to put the white vinyl in there, you might not be entitled to do that without a variance. I understand that's not the application before. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on the same page with respect to that. My question to you would be, would it benefit you if you were denied the variance to come up to the front corner? Would it benefit you to have a variance to replace the existing fence as it is right now? Is that something you would want to do or not?
I think it's something you can say otherwise, but I think it's something we are open to if we definitely have to. We just really wanted to have a bigger backyard space and especially block out that window from the view of the field.
Okay, so one of the benefits you're trying to achieve is that larger picture window. You want to have that you do not want people to be able to see in through that picture window. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so in addition to the dogs, the picture window is a major factor in your thought process.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a question about the nature of the backyard. When you're looking at the front of the house along Leroy, to the left, is there a fence along that property line?
Between the houses?
Yeah, between the houses?
Yes.
Correct. There's a fence there.
Is that yours or your neighbor's?
Pretty sure it's the
Okay, and what's the nature of that fence?
that is a 4-foot chain fence.
And does it come up to where the existing fence is along the left side of your house along Leroy?
Yeah, it's our front fence on the left side.
Okay, so their 4-foot chain link fence comes up to your existing wood 6-foot fence at the front of your house on that side.
Correct.
And you said that the fence that you want to install, whether it's all the way to the front or as a replacement of what you have right now, would be a 6-foot vinyl
Yes.
fence. Would it be, well, could you describe the nature of the vinyl, like what it looks like? Is it solid? Does it have parts that you can see
It is
through?
just a
Is it,
solid thing.
as opposed to, I know I've seen some that are solid for 4 feet and then they have a section on top that has like a lattice or something like that. Solid 6 foot. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? You heard my spiel at the get-go with respect to 6-foot fences, okay? We strictly interpret the as a practical matter, we strictly interpret the ordinance with respect to 6-foot fences. Your application can certainly stand on its merits here tonight, okay? I guess one of the things that I was thinking of to avoid the necessity of potentially having to apply for a new variance if you wanted to come back and apply for a replacement fence would be that you could amend your application to just include those portions that were shaded yellow on your map and to replace that with a 6-foot vinyl fence. It would also, if you were going to replace it, would need a variance in the future. So that's an option for you. The other option is to just stick with the application as it's written tonight and see what the board collectively thinks about the application. I'm only speaking for myself. I don't speak for everybody else on the board. They have completely independent thoughts with respect to that. So, but I wanted to give you the opportunity if that's something you were interested in. Is there any interest in amending your application to allow for the replacement of the 6-foot fence where the existing wood fence is?
I'm leaving it to you.
We'd like to.
Okay, fair enough. So there's no other questions from members of the board, or is there anyone in the community that wishes to be heard for or against the application?
We do also have pictures of other houses in Maine that have
Okay, if you have them with you, they're in the package.
Those ones we did research, Chairman.
I'm sorry?
Because they were in the packet, we did research those.
Okay.
Most of them seem to pre-exist the code or don't have permits. Most of the fences in that area were, the building inspector looked through our permits. And a couple of them over time have been changed. One was associated with the pool, but in general, they do seem to be all of the same age and pre-existing our code. So most of those are legally non-conforming.
Okay. All right, there's no members of the community that want to be heard for or against the application with the additional information that's been provided by the applicant with respect to other properties with 6-foot fences, as well as Ms. Robertson's research into the issue being added to the discussion and record this evening. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion either for or against the application?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Dolman?
Man, this thing's been crackly on me all night. Mr. Chairman, I would move to deny the motion as it's presented today. I am a corner lot owner and a dog owner and understand the need for privacy. And while it's true that we've strictly held to the 6-foot standards, the reason we exist is to understand when a property is very unique and might require a change. I don't particularly see a reason why this is a unique situation. And I do think that the benefit can be achieved by other means, especially of bear proofing. I haven't heard that one before. Not saying it's not legitimate. But there is already a 6-foot fence area that's penned in. I don't necessarily think it's an undesirable change in the neighborhood because of the pre-existing 6-foot fences in the neighborhood. This is a substantial request. I don't see any environmental impact, and this is obviously self-created. And while I completely understand the needs that the applicant has asked for, on the balance, I would vote to, or I move to deny the application as written.
An application's been made. Is there a second? Or a motion has been made. Is there a second?
I will second the motion.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? we'll just move forward.
The
with respect.
popcorn is now ready.
Okay, a motion's been made or second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Having heard none, Ms. Shakedi, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif? Mr. Dolman?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Stein?
I'm going to vote yes for the reasons stated. And I just want to note that if we would approve yours, then all of the other fences in that neighborhood would then come seeking the approval for also 6-foot fencing when they have to replace theirs. And they would also want to come in compliance, and they would all use your property as an example. So that's the reason why I voted yes.
The motion was to deny.
Mr. Green?
Okay, first of all, I want you to know how much I can see from my site inspection and from the photographs in your application, the wonderful work that you've done to clean up what I will kindly call in public a nature preserve. You did a really, really wonderful thing, not only for yourselves, but for your neighbors. And, you know, I appreciate your concerns with your dogs. They are, and I say this kindly, very attentive. In other words, when I walked Leroy, they were on guard, not barking, but they knew I was there. And when I walked around Fillmore, they were walking to that big window and watching. They were, you know, on guard, but perfectly appropriately demeanored and not barking. That said, though, I think that you will be able to, in time, take steps within the code to enhance any privacy concerns you have about the window on Fillmore. As you look out the window, yes, if people are walking on Fillmore and they're staring in your window, they can see you and your dogs. I get that. But there may be ways within the code for you to address that. Also, across the street on Fillmore, there are kids, I believe you, kids playing in that plot in front of the cemetery. You know, kids in the neighborhood, it can be a beautiful thing. The people in the cemetery aren't going to bother you, though. So, it's a corner lot. The code says what it says. It's Niskayuna. So, it's a substantial change. That's what's getting me here. So, for those reasons, I'm going to also vote yes to the motion to deny.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairperson Hoke?
Likewise, I appreciate that you've spent a lot of time and effort improving the character of your property. That's not lost on me. I also would note to you that something that I'm typically cognizant of is pre-existing. So as strict as the board as a whole is with respect to 6-foot fences, one of the factors that I take into consideration is the replacement of existing 6-foot fences, even that are in non-compliance, to the extent that that would result in the need for a variance. The thought process being we shouldn't dissuade people from improving their property and improving the character of the neighborhood by making them keep up fences that have degraded over time in our eyes. So it's better they're being kept up because they're afraid they won't get a variance for a new fence. That's not the motion or application that's currently pending, but I just wanted to make that clear to you. But for the reasons that have been put on the record tonight, I would likewise have to vote for the motion, and that would mean that your the motion is passed by a vote of 7-0, and that would deny your application. So I appreciate you coming down this evening and giving us the information, and I certainly appreciate all the work you've put into your property. So thank you for that. Okay?
Thank you.
Take care. Is there anything else on the agenda this evening? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Anybody in the community opposed?